What's up, good people? Welcome back. Hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. Chargers win this one 31-14. They are now 8-4. Raiders fall to 2-10. The Chargers get the sweep of the series for this season against the Raiders, now 2-0. The Chargers, winners of 4 of the last 5, kind of exercised the demons of 2 weeks ago. It didn't look great going into halftime. It was tied 7-7. Herbert goes down with an injury. He's got 2 fingers taped together, a big honking white glove on his hand, but they outscored the Raiders 24-7 in that second half. And it really just kind of, as soon as Vidal hit that, or Vidal, excuse me, hit that home run TD, it just kind of was all downhill there, scoring wise for the Chargers, and kind of all downhill losing for the Raiders, really.
I'm not gonna lie, man. First of all, everybody, hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. If you celebrate, but yeah. Anyway, am I the only one that had like that Fred Sanford, Elizabeth, I'm coming home to you moment when we saw Justin Herbert come back from the locker room with what looked like a prosthetic attached to his wrist? Like, it would be such a Chargers thing to have 2 weeks off, have him come out, go 5 for 5 on a driving, which ends in a touchdown, and then watch him be injured in a significant manner, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a bit, but wasn't meant to be. Chargers pulled it together. The running game definitely led the day, along with the defense doing what they had to do. And like you mentioned, they pretty much exercised the demons from about 2 weeks ago. But of course, there always has to be some drama involved when the Chargers play. So it felt like for a little while after the Herbert injury, they were just going to have to try to survive the game, but ended up not being so. Even apparently Justin Herbert with one hand isn't enough for the Raiders to not suck. So worked out either way. And again, happy Thanksgiving to all you guys. We got a little bit of a treat here to end the week off. So I hope everybody enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what the diagnosis, or at least what happened to his hand. If it's broken, if it got cut, what the deal was. Everybody was zooming in on that picture of him running into the tunnel. But when Trey Lance came in, man, and then he stayed out there for a while, you thought maybe it was kind of artificial and he like cut his hand or something. But when he didn't return and we saw Trey Lance in there for, what felt like 15 downs at that point, which felt also like Roman like completely gave up, had no faith in Trey Lance at all. I think he only had 1 pass, if I'm not mistaken. And it wasn't like he was doing all that bad, but it was like he handed the ball off on a 3rd and 5 or 6, and Kamani happened to get the first down, but it felt like he just kind of gave up on that play. And then he did it again on a 3rd down and, manageable, handed the ball off, and Vidal got it again. It was interesting, but then Herbert comes in and then, it didn't all work out, but, Trey Lance wasn't all that bad. It kind of, I don't know if it was a rhythm thing. They wanted to keep him in there for a while, but man, it was not looking good for a little bit, but Herbert finished the game. He had the really bad pick, and we'll probably get to that. But ended up getting 2 touchdowns, a little over 150 yards, I think, through the air. So, he did enough to beat the Raiders at home.
Kamani would not allow Greg Roman to screw this game up, because I guess he walked over to Keenan and did like hey, look at me, I'm Mr. Third Down today. Because every time Roman decided we were just going to hold the ball or hand the ball off just to potentially save, whether it be a sack or turnover, Kamani wasn't having any of that. He's like, we're going to stump these guys out, and if I have to do it on 3rd down myself, then I absolutely will. So when we start talking about who the, MVPs of the game are, he's at the top of the list on the offense. I guess that's, needless to say, but just want to make sure that I gave him all the props and his flowers up front.
Sure.
But yeah, overall, the game felt super uneven until after half. But what I'm really happy about is the offensive line play, specifically when it comes to running the ball, because that's been the bugaboo all season long. They haven't been able to figure that out. Outside, we know the pass blocking has been a problem because it's literally anybody out there trying to protect Herbert, and Greg Roman still hasn't figured out the best way to go about that. We can talk more Greg Roman here in a bit.
Mhm.
But overall, I want to say that a special shout out should go to the offensive line for what they did in the running game, because
Sure.
while we're still at least a week away from Hampton. While Vidal did all he could to ensure that this game didn't stay too close, the offensive line really bowed up and made sure that there was some decent running lanes out there for him to attack. And when they weren't there, he did a phenomenal job of keeping his feet going, which was kind of a problem last year. He would kind of get stuck behind the line of scrimmage and stop his feet. Today, he wasn't having any of it. He found the creases where they were, and he was patient and sometimes bounced to the outside. And again, he definitely helped to power the day when Justin Herbert was, someone who was essentially a complimentary piece, if you want to call him that today. So they eventually had to circumvent the offensive line as far as the passing game is concerned, but they led with the running game, which is absolutely what Jim Harbaugh wants to do anyway. I just foresee that being the case today, especially after we found out that, Hampton wasn't going to be back, because I was expecting like that tag team while they were working him back into form of both he and Vidal. So I thought Herbert was going to have to come out there and sling it, and it looked like that was going to be what was going to happen earlier in the game, even though he kind of seemed a little bit like a game manager at first. He was just kind of doing some dinking and dunking because the running game was working so well. But overall, they played the type of game that Harbaugh wants to play, and it worked out in Greg Roman's favor, although it could have gotten really weird if it wasn't for the guys stepping up and essentially making Greg right, because I think this was more about the players executing than it was about the actual play calling.
Sure. Yeah. You're glad that the Chargers won in the fashion that it did, 31-14. Being tied even at halftime, Chargers dominated the first half. But it just felt like with that injury, everything was kind of like up in the air at that point, but it never felt like the Raiders were really in that game. Even when it was tied, it didn't feel like they could get anything going other than Brock Bowers, which he was incredible today. And I'm sure we'll touch on him too. But for the running game to get 36 carries today and like 180 yards combined on a game where you felt like Hampton would, throughout the week, everybody was pretty confident that Hampton might be back this week. At least they were hopeful. And then when Hampton's not in, to get the production that they got out of those two players, Kamani, for sure, having 126 yards, getting his touchdown, getting Jarrett Patterson the touchdown at the end, who ran really hard today too. He had over 50 yards. Both of them looked really, really good. Granted, the Raiders are really bad. They needed this game to get right, and they did, and they got over 30, and it was great. And the defense came alive too. But also on top of the great game that Kamani had and Patterson had, the offensive line specifically deserves a huge shout out. I know Max Crosby got his today, which, he's top 5 in this league. So that's going to happen. But I really want to shout out Salyer, who, we've seen Deculus and Penning, and, Salyer had the job, lost it. Deculus came back in for whatever reason. Then Penning came over with the trade and he started. And then they finally put Salyer back out after the bye. And with that kind of, home run ball that Kamani hit coming out of the half, that 59-yard TD run, that was all stamped by a kick-out block by Salyer, and then a nice open field move on the last defender from Vidal. But it really felt like Salyer in space had some really, really good kick-out blocks. With the penalty aside, he was really, really solid today. We didn't see a lot of pass rush off that left side, which was great. Obviously, it was coming all on Pipkin's side from Crosby, which you expect. But in the run game, running off that left side was really, really successful today. That defense is not very good in Las Vegas, but it's something that they could probably build on. And, now there is no more competition. You don't have to worry about Penning or Deculus or Foster Sorrell, who's no longer on this roster anyway. You don't have to worry about any of those other tackles. It feels like Salyer won that job today, held on to it, and is going to keep it for the rest of the season. So that, outside of just getting the win, which they needed to for their playoff hopes and seeding and all that other stuff, they also kind of helped solidify that line as well, at least on the left side with Salyer at left tackle.
Funny thing is that Salyer has always really been the answer, but they were kind of trying to do this rob Peter to pay Paul thing, where the idea was Deculus and then later Penning would offer you more in the run game, because that's kind of their thing. Deculus is a little bit more athletic than Salyer is. Penning, also Mr. RES superstar. But somebody who's more known for their run blocking. So the idea was, okay, we want to line up and really, do what we want to do in the running game and really take it to teams. But they weren't having success either or. And Sawyer was going to be the better of the pass blockers between the two. So, or the three, should I say. So they were willing to sit Sawyer to have better running game. But that kind of sort of worked off and on because we saw those bouncing back weeks where every other week Kamani would have a better running game than others. But the truth of the matter is that you have this quarterback that you want to be able to drop back 25-ish times a game, and you couldn't do that with Deculus and Penning. And the problem is that if you're not winning on your early downs and you're behind the chains on down and distance, then those two guys initially in Deculus and Penning were liabilities. Well, Sawyer actually worked in your favor.
Yeah.
What we found today was, and again, granted, it's the Raiders, but still take it for what it's worth. Sawyer was out there doing really well in both the run and passing game. Now, he still isn't a tremendous athlete, but he was able to be more than serviceable today. And I think that you just need to roll with him moving forward until he proves to you that he absolutely can't, because we know who can't. We've seen enough of it. Penning got one start, and now he's hanging out on the bench, and he's essentially just depth, which I feel like is what he needed to be anyway.
Yeah.
That being said, it kind of worked out the way that it needed to. I just wish they took a different route to get there. Now moving forward, this just needs to be your guy on the left side. He needs to stay healthy, and then you can just operate your offense as you see fit. But again, what you still can't do, and what Greg Roman needs to get through that thick head of his, is that even with the line and the performance that you saw today, and Max Crosby still getting after Herbert for what did he get, 2-3 sacks? I know it was at least 2. You're not going to be able to play against this gauntlet that you have coming up and thinking that you're going to be able to drop Herbert back in a 5 and 7 step drops. Just get that out of your head, because every time you did it today, it almost instantly led to pressure. What really annoyed me was the fact that they weren't even willing to change up the snap count. I was about to call him Penning. Crosby got one sack where he was clearly offside.
Yeah.
And just had a free run at Herbert, crushed him. In my head, I'm thinking, okay, cool. They're not going to blow the whistle. So you got to switch up the snap count. You got to make it obvious, because he's clearly trying to hunt. And if he's going to try to get jumps like that, you're going to get a ton of offsides. At least make him think about it to where he doesn't get the jump, and you're going to give Pipkins an opportunity to at least get in front of him for half a second, so that Herbert can make a decision, at least have an opportunity. So they're going to have to be better about that throughout the remainder of the year, switching up the snap count so that the defenses don't, again, get these free runs at Herbert. But overall, again, I want to commend the offensive line for the job they did specifically in the running game, because they're going to need that going forward. And overall, something to call out. I mentioned this, them playing ahead of the sticks and down and distance. They did a tremendous job of that today. Almost every third down was a third and manageable. I think the longest, maybe I could be wrong, I think there was one real true third and long that was beyond 8 yards potentially. I think there was one, but I do recall, at worst, like 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, maybe like 1 3rd and 8. And they were able to operate there because you can still get your quick game off and ask your guys that are playmakers after the catch to do their thing in short areas, and maybe get those extra 2 or 3 yards if you have to dump something off in like the 4 to 5 yard range, and let them do what they have to do. So again, the game script, it was decent. Greg still got to be better. That 4th down that they did not convert, I can't for the life of me not understand why you didn't run an RPO there, because the running game was working so well that you knew what was going to happen. The linebackers were going to collapse on whoever the back was. You could have pulled that ball and literally just thrown a quick slant over to a slot wide receiver or something in the middle of the field, even a tight end up the seam for easy yards, and kept the drive going. But this isn't about being super critical. They got the win. You could not have convinced me at halftime they were going to put up 30 points. Never thought that was going to happen. I know 7 was in garbage time, but still, I didn't think they were going to get in the 20s. So good game overall. And you get to, again, go into what's going to be a gauntlet for the next 5 or so. Well, it's 5 games, right? The next 5 games to close this thing out and try to make a run towards the playoffs. But you got to keep 10 healthy first and foremost.
Yeah. I'm still curious what's going to happen with that hand, and how because he wasn't taking anything under center today after that injury. So I'm curious what that outlook is going to be like going forward. And though offensively there wasn't, the run game was great today. The offensive line was good. Herbert just did enough. But the passing game just needed to basically move the sticks today. And make it or third manageable. So there wasn't a lot of big highlight plays. We saw, Ladd get a touchdown. We saw QJ get a touchdown early on too. Gaston had a pretty big catch early too, but they just did enough on the ground, which feels like a very Harbaugh type game, Greg Roman, Jim Harbaugh type old school throwback type game where you're rushing for 180 yards and then I think he had 150 through the air or something today. Herbert did. So, they did enough to win the game, but it really felt like defensively, the Chargers just suffocated Geno Smith from the very start, and just outside of, one drive that kind of, got away from him in that second quarter, and then one touchdown at the end of the game and kind of like garbage time-ish. They just pinned their ears back and got after Geno Smith. One of which from Thule today, who had an absolutely monster game with 2 sacks and 2 tackles for loss. He had that 4th down stop, a batted pass. Like, he was everywhere today. So it felt like defensively they really set a tone today. And in a game 2 weeks ago where they were a big letdown, it's a nice little game today to kind of hopefully ride this confidence and this winning streak and this, this good play forward in this kind of 5-game gauntlet going forward.
Thule is quietly having a very, very good year. I'm not all for the whole Pro Bowl thing because that's a popularity contest, but when we're just talking about rankings, right? That was his 10th sack, which, if I'm not mistaken, puts him like right now, as of right now, at 6th in the league in sacks. So again, we're talking about a guy that has had an impact virtually every week. And before he was really, really good against the run last year, it dropped off a little bit as far as his ability to set the edge. It feels like he was focusing on more about getting after the passer, but he's finding that happy medium this year, and the production is coming in bunches. Like you see when they do those NASCAR packages where they line up maybe both he and Khalil on the same side, or he and OA, and they run those stunts and twists, or sometimes it's just pure effort, because that's always been his thing. He's not a huge technique guy. He's not super twitchy. Generally, it's about effort. And every once in a while, he'll win with get off, but sometimes it's just pure power. And he won with a lot of that today. So you saw it, like you mentioned, on that 4th down stop, humongous. Just something that in the margins, always making those plays that are differences in the game, because right now you have an offense, because even though today, they had a couple of really good drives that resulted in points, this isn't a team that's overly efficient. So what they have to rely on is good special teams play, which, somewhat questionable. The return game was actually better today. I'll give Darius Davis credit. And Cameron Dicker's always going to step up and do his thing, but field position is going to be huge. And a lot of that's going to come from the defense getting you stops and forcing punts in negative territory so that you can start with decent field position. And Thule's a huge player in that, and I don't think he gets enough credit for what he does. This is year 3. Would you consider him maybe a tier 1 edge rusher? No, but he's definitely like a high level number 2. And in some games, he'll perform like a number 1 because of the attention other guys draw. Like Khalil Mack didn't have a huge numbers day, but he was absolutely a presence. He was a freaking menace on the opposite side. And again, lining him up next to Thule, things almost always seem to happen. But I want to make sure that Thule gets his props, because this is a consistent thing. You may not hear from him for like spurts. It may be a quarter where you don't see anything from him, and then he'll just like explode like today. Like you have 2-3 big plays and they'll come in bunches, but they're always huge plays that create really decent field position for the offense to go to work. So I just like to see the kid continue to grow. And I think he's becoming more of the player that we wanted him to be. And I think it might actually be happening a little sooner than I thought it would, but it looks like he's coming together to have more of a complete game. I thought he'd probably be like at least another year away from that, but he's definitely putting on.
Yeah, he is now 7th in the league in sacks with 10. He's tied with Byron Young. He passed Aiden Hutchinson and Max Crosby today. Jumped him, which are 2 pretty good names. And you think of number 1 pass rushers in this league, you think of Micah Parsons, probably Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, but then you start thinking about Aiden Hutchinson and Max Crosby, and you got Thule, who surpassed him today. So very good year. I know he's going to have a contract coming up pretty soon, and you think like, he was great when you had Bosa and you had Mac, how could he be as like a number one and or like a high two? And now it looks like he's putting it together. I don't think anybody's thinking he's going to be up in that Myles Garrett range, but a really, really, really impressive year so far, and a absolute crazy good game today, and honestly a really quietly good season so far. And he deserves some praise for sure. And it felt like early in that game the Chargers got a sack on a third down, and it felt like four dudes were falling on top of Geno Smith. And then I think Thule and Mac had to split the sack because there were so many dudes in the area. But we saw great plays from Thule today. Mac went to work today. He was another dude who was an animal today. Boygby showed up today, and he made some plays today. And Bud Dupree surprisingly got some work today. Got a sack and made a crazy good play on the second drive
when he was getting tackled.
Yeah,
like, he tackled. He was a tackle while being tackled. I'm like, so we're just not going to throw the flag? Is this is what we're doing? Okay, cool.
The dude was on top of him, and he's got his feet, and it was like it was crazy.
It looked inappropriate. Like he's laying on him face to face. While, like, dude, okay, fine. This is cool. But yeah, absolutely. So Bud is always someone that gets flagged because, I mean, being honest, Bud is definitely past his prime.
Oh yeah,
so he's been more of a complimentary player, someone who's better against the run than he is actually a pass rusher at this point. But today he definitely made plays, and that was tremendous. I mean, you got like a 300-pound dude bearing down on you, literally bear hugging you, and you're still able to get an arm free to make a tackle in the backfield. So yeah, for certain. It really was a whole entire defensive front, if we're being honest, because someone else who I think the beginning of the year's name was kind of ringing a little bit louder than it has been, that's still doing the same kind of work but not getting the same credit, is Tyler Tart. He's a game wrecker in the middle of the field, whether it's tip passes, taking on additional blocks, whether when he's playing nose tackle, if he's playing any nose tackle at all, sometimes he'll rotate between 0 and 3. He'll take on double teams and allow the linebackers to flow, and it doesn't happen perfectly every game. Sometimes like he'll get driven back a touch just because, I mean, he's not super light, still 300+ pound dude, but he's not ideal when you're talking about like a true zero nose tackle. But in games like today, he'll muddy things up. You saw putting in work on the interior for guys like Denzel Perriman to get in a couple nice TFLs. Didn't hear a whole lot from Deion. Deion's not had the greatest year for the last few weeks, but you still see him flowing from sideline to sideline. I need him to get a little bit more sure as a tackler out there on the perimeter. Look, I know Ashton Jeanty is I don't think Jeanty was tackled by the first person ever today, but that just shows you the type of athlete he is. But still, I mean, they got to the ball and rallied to a guy who can make big plays happen if he makes the first guy miss, which he often does, to the tune of 15 carries for 31 yards. So he really still wasn't a factor. I mean, the only person that really did any damage was that freak Brock Bowers, and no one can do anything about that at all, as we saw today. But overall, the defense definitely handled their business. The defensive front showed up after being embarrassed 2 weeks ago. It looked like a completely different squad altogether. And like you said, our boy, Justin Boygby, flashing a little bit here and there. And you're seeing him become more that player that they were looking for when they drafted him a couple years ago, calling him a project. He's definitely been that. But every game or so, every other game, he shows up. And I think you're going to see him become more of a mainstay on that defensive line as the next year or two goes on. But in general, the entire front played a very, very good game. And I mean, you can't really complain when you're looking at a team that only gave up as far as total yards are concerned. How many did they have on the day offensively? 165 yards total. No, that was just receiving. So it looks like they had less than 200 total yards on the day. So, I mean, you can't ask for much more than that from a defense. And when you've got your quarterback out there laboring with one hand, you know that you absolutely have to step up. And I've said this here in weeks past. The defense is going to have performances like this week in and week out. They can't afford to have an off day because of all the issues that they have on offense, specifically on the offensive line, and now potentially a quarterback with one hand.
Yeah. So Daniel Popper just tweeted out that Herbert broke a bone in his hand and is going to have a procedure tomorrow.
Procedure?
So, yeah, well, that's what Popper's saying. He said that's what Harbaugh said, but I don't know. And then Harbaugh said he doesn't know if Herbert will miss any time, but I don't know, man. I don't know what that says going forward, but damn, he finished a game with a broken bone in his hand, huh? That's pretty good. I don't know what they gave him, what they shot him up with, but man.
Because, I mean, you could see literally he was not moving his hand at all. And it's like I said, it looked like everybody's seen Happy Gilmore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, just Chubb's hand. Yeah, Happy Gilmore. That's what it looked like, except it was a glove. So it was really, really weird to see that every play because they couldn't put him under center. They had to line him up. And I'm sorry, folks, there's a difference between pistol and shotgun. Like one of them, I was not McCarthy, the twins. I'm forgetting the last name.
McCourty.
McCourty twin was trying to correct whoever the other announcer was because he kept calling it shotgun. But whatever, it's just football junkie stuff. Whatever. They were lining up in pistol a ton just so they could still give him those two-way goes as if they were lining up under center without physically having to put him under center. When you line up in shotgun and offset with the running back, essentially you're telling that you're going like one direction. I mean, you could absolutely run a toss to the opposite side, which they did. Like that's how they scored the touchdown on that 59-yarder from Kimani. But generally, when you're running out of shotgun, essentially you're telling the defense where you're going to run the ball. You can run counters and stuff out of that too, but it's a little bit more predictable. In pistol, you still can go either way. It's a definite three-way go. You can go up the AB gap if you want to toss it right, left, whatever. So they were trying to find workarounds for it, and essentially, this is where things get tricky because if you're saying this is a procedure.
So here's an update. Schefter just said Herbert fractured his left hand today, and he's going to undergo surgery tomorrow. So it's more than that. it's a fracture, and he's going to have to get surgery. Still unknown if he will miss any time. In a stretch of games that the Chargers absolutely have to have, the gauntlet that we've been talking about since I feel like preseason, where they were going to really make their bones about the season in the last 5 games, which is going to be Philly, KC, Dallas, Houston, and Denver.
You just had to say bones, didn't you?
3 out of the 5 on the road, including in Mile High, at Arrowhead, in Dallas. It's if he misses any time,
it's a wrap.
Yeah.
If he misses any time.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the thing that's the most difficult about this to deal with is the fact that we were all afraid of the offensive line being his undoing. And essentially he was injured on what amounted to like a routine open field tackle.
Yeah.
Like it's the worst luck ever, but this is so typical Chargers stuff. Like I really don't even know how to view this. If you're asking me from a Herbert standpoint, I know that he's going to do everything he can to play. But if you're talking about hand surgery tomorrow on Monday, and your next game, what they play Philly on Monday night? Is that the next game?
Yeah.
I mean, is that even realistic? I mean,
is it Sunday night or Monday night? I think it's Monday night. It's Monday night.
I mean, even with the extra day, it's hand surgery, man. Like, it's your offhand, but you still have to be able to grip the football. And then you're going to have to protect that hand. In which case, if it's surgery, that will require some sort of cast. How do you grip a football with a cast on your hand? Even if it's like a soft cast, it's still, I don't know, man. That, I guess we were so happy about the win. The reality of this is that he clearly looked like he broke something. And how do you contend with that as a quarterback? You need both hands. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Unless they do something like they did today, where they cast up the fractured bone in his hand. If it's a finger, that's the other thing. Like where the significance of where that fractured bone is in that hand is pretty. If he fractured, say, his ring finger, and he put on a cast today, gloved it up on the finger, you're a little bit more manageable than something in the. And I guess I'm not a doctor, but I know that it's got. I did say at a Holiday Inn last night though, and I would say that it's not good either way. So I'm not sure. I don't know if he wears a soft cast or what they're going to put on him, but
Didn't Josh Allen play with a fractured hand recently? Well, I don't know if it was that end of last year? Something. I
maybe.
feel like he had an injury to a hand or an arm or something. I want to say it was a hand. Don't quote me on that. I'll have to look that up. But if it's Herbert, he's going to do everything he can to be on the field. I mean, the dude played with fractured rib cartilage.
Yeah.
So, I don't doubt that he could potentially be out on the field next week. I mean, the probability of that, it's like you mentioned, we don't know the details of any of this. And so things could get turned upside down really quickly. This was a game they absolutely had to have, and it was kind of like a warm-up going into the gauntlet. But now your most important player could potentially have to miss time. And in a wide open AFC, it doesn't get any more ridiculous than this year, man. You start off 3-0 in the division, you go through all the injuries to the offensive line, you get to the point to where you could get on a run to end the season. You got the Colts losing today. This is such Chargers stuff, man, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's so tight. There's so many teams that are 8-4 right now, like the Chargers. So you've got Patriots at 10-2 with the 1 seed, Broncos at 9-2. Then it's Jags at 8-4. It's Chargers at 8-4, Colts at 8-4, Bills at 8-4, Texans, who they're going to be playing, is 7-5, who's currently on the bubble. And then the Chiefs Steelers are 6-6, who are on the outside looking in. So, man, it just feels like, Steelers, I don't think make a run here, and I think they're probably falling out. It just feels like the Chiefs still have life, and that's no fun. But it's so tight with all these teams at 8-4. So it's I don't know, man. Somebody asked us what we think the record would be in the next 5 games, but that's hard to tell now with the kind of murky outlook of Herbert at the moment.
Yeah, we have to get some details on what the plan is going to be moving forward, because I mean, just look at next week. I mean, the Eagles have definitely been going through it the last couple of weeks, so they're going to be coming in hungry. And I mean, that defense hasn't been great, and I felt a whole lot better about it this time around, or having to contend with that this time with Herbert and, getting Hampton back and like the weapons on the outside receiver. I felt like maybe we could hang with them and definitely score with them, because their offense is having all kind of problems putting up points. But I mean, Justin Herbert is one thing, Trey Lance, wholly different operation.
Yeah.
And I don't really know how you circumvent that. But yeah, this changes everything. I don't think, and this is just my personal opinion, from what we saw today, he can manage it. So this isn't a season-ending thing, but you're talking about having an opportunity to heal somewhat from whatever procedure he has to have tomorrow, and that doesn't necessarily mean that's something you come back from in a week. So if he were to have to miss next week, I wouldn't be shocked, and they're gonna have to figure out, how to move forward for at least a week, and then Greg Roman's gonna have to earn that paycheck again with game planning. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Right now, everything's kind of up in the air.
Looks like somebody said it's not a finger, it's a back of the hand fracture. I have not seen that, so I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that. What is Schefter? Oh, okay. Schefter's just saying, now the question is whether Justin Herbert or Trey Lance will be QB1 hosting the Eagles next week. Yep, that's what we're saying. Who knows? Before So I mean, we talked about, I mean, it obviously it's a positive that Salyer really kind of solidified the left side of that line, which was really good. The run game was excellent. The fact that they can get going now, right before Hampton comes back, it'd be nice to have little Hampton Vidal kind of 1-2 punch, which will be nice. We'll see about Herbert, but a really nice game from this defense from a Boygbeed. Tony Unk got an interception today. That was an awesome tip drill interception. Right after the Herbert interception too, which was nice. And then we talked about all the pass rush today. What do you think? And dude, that catch by Brock Bowers today, I mean, like catch of the year candidate.
Easily.
Nothing you can do about that as a defender. Not Cam Hart, not
or Cam Hart. Like he mossed him twice in like literally twice within 5 minutes. The first time I was like, oh, Cam, okay, did you play off of that because you heard the whistle? Or so I'll give you a pass. But that second one, there's nothing you could do, man. You were gonna be on a poster regardless.
No. I mean, Darrelle Revis in his prime wasn't getting that. Like nobody, not Dion, not nobody, not a single defender.
Dawson from Street Fighter, maybe.
So what do you think before we get off here? Because it feels like there's not a lot to recap because it felt like a trouncing in that second half. But what do you feel about the kind of late hit by Crosby and the fall from Herbert? Do we think that was a little flop from Herbert? Do we think because it was a little
performative. It was a little bit, but I mean, again, Crosby, it's the CB4 boys doing what they got to do, man. Just out there doing the cell block 4 stuff, trying to start fights. I mean, if you can't win in the actual game, win at something. So, yeah. I mean, he thought Herbert yelled in his ear, and so his reaction to that was to push him. I'm like, dude, you're on a football field. Y'all yell at each other all game long. Like, you're trash talking the game. What warranted you deciding you were going to push him? It'd be different if like Herbert nudged him or something.
Right.
But he just like walks up on him and he shoves him. Like, all right, Max, that was a punk move to pull. I mean, I respect, Max Crosby's game and everything, but that's, it's going too far. I mean, he walks over and tries to shake Herbert's hand, and like it looked like Herbert hesitated for a second.
Yeah.
And like, did he end up shaking his hand?
He dapped him up like a little bit.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, because, dude, like, what is that really about? So anyway, whatever, man, y'all lost. So if you're pissed about the fact that you're losing, fine, but you also decided to sign an extension to stay with the Raiders. So it's your own fault. It's like Myles Garrett being pissed off. Like, come on, be for real.
I know. There's a video that I see and I watch every time it crosses my timeline. But when Herbert yells 90-yard touchdown in that Jaguars dude's ear,
Rivers,
Is that what I said?
You said Herbert.
Oh,
I know
sorry,
you meant Rivers. Yeah.
When Rivers, throws that 90-yard touchdown and he's screaming 90-yard touchdown as he's like side by side with that dude, and the guy didn't do anything.
No.
And Rivers is yelling at the top of his lungs, like he is so loud, clearly trying to bait him a little bit. No way Herbert did anything in the vicinity of what Rivers did, and Herbert got pushed. Even though I do say Herbert flopped a little bit on that. It was definitely performative. And then he gave the little first down symbol at the end, which he was trying to get. But man, like Crosby talks so much during games. To go and push Herbert and then walk over the Charger sideline was ridiculous. He just, all it was frustration. They're like, and the announcers were like, it was good because Crosby went over and was like, my bad, into the huddle. It's like, dude, come on. They've lost. He just gave up 15 more yards when they were like trying to mount some kind of comeback and got them into field goal range. And then eventually they scored. So it was like, why even compliment him on something that he didn't do good on anyway?
Got news for you, Max. You might as well just sign up for anger management because you're gonna be plenty frustrated being a Raider. But again, this was your choice. Nobody told you had to. But you're a Raider at heart and you're acting like it.
What is it with those pass rushers? The same thing with Myles Garrett. Like he could go anywhere, but he just wants to sit with a loser franchise and collect his money, I guess. I don't know.
Oh man, like they're paying you $100+ million. I guess the bread is hard to turn down, but it tells you what is it that you're in it for. Well, there's a sacrifice that comes with it, right? If you want the money, then 9 times out of 10 that means your team won't be able to get the complementary pieces around you to perform unless they draft really, really well, and you got a bunch of youngsters that are playing out of their minds. But you play for the Cleveland Browns and you play for the Las Vegas Raiders. two
Yeah.
destitute franchises that are going nowhere fast.
Yeah.
Turnover there is crazy. The coaches are in and out. The players are in and out. You got a new QB every year.
Yeah.
Come on, dude. Like, the money is what you were after, and you got paid. So just shut up and deal with it. Deal with the frustration. Like, play
Yeah.
ball. You're playing a game. You're getting paid over 100 mil to do it. And clearly the money means more to you than winning championships. So I don't feel bad for any of y'all.
Yeah. It's yeah. They've got too much money to feel bad for him.
No,
And they made that bed. They got to sleep in it. So
for sure.
I don't care about that. And also, they got their money, so good for them. But in terms of like their legacy and like their future outlook and like playoffs and all that, it's dim for both of them. I don't get it. I don't know what those pass rushers are doing.
I'm gonna lie, man. I think what it is that some of these dudes that have like a Hall of Fame trajectory career would much rather have a busting Canton based on like individual stats and get paid the bread as opposed to having a Super Bowl ring. And if that's what you want, cool. Like, I mean, you can be immortalized in Canton forever. And sometimes, like, dude, Melvin Gordon has a Super Bowl ring. You think
Yeah.
anybody really knows or cares?
No.
So,
But then it works
if you asked him what he would rather have, if in an honest moment, what do you think? Being like one of the greatest players of all time and be like filthy rich, or have a Super Bowl ring?
But then
for
he
doing
will be
nothing?
the guy who statistically was a Hall of Famer, but then never did anything to put his team over. It's the same like Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers conversation, Ben Roethlisberger situation. They all talk about how Eli had the rings, Roethlisberger had the rings, Rivers could never get a ring. The Dan Marino type conversation. Then you get into that stuff. But pass rushers don't really influence the game as much as quarterbacks do. So I don't know that that's so much in play, but it still feels like at some point, because statistically it felt like Myles Garrett was on a Hall of Fame trajectory anyway. So before he signed that last contract a year or two ago, he could have gone somewhere else and still got paid a ton of money and then maybe had a chance at playoffs. But that's, that is what it is.
But sometimes the money means more than everything. Because, like, I mean, you look at some of the historically great pass rushers, like a Lawrence Taylor, guys like those names, like you say those names, Myles Garrett, when it's all said and done, is going to be one of the greatest pass rushers of all time.
Mm-hmm.
So for him, that's stamped. He's going to go to Canton unless something. I mean, even at this point, I guess if his career ended now, I don't know where he is on the all-time sack list right now, but just I think with what he's put out there currently, he would definitely be able a name that you can float there. But if you can get the most money that position's ever been paid, because that also coincides with the Hall of Fame stuff, right? You also reset the market and become the highest paid at your position of all time. So that's another thing. They just want the flash, they want the money, and they want the individual attributes, because if not, you don't take the bread to play for a lesser team. Then it's not about winning for you. It can't be. It might be like third on the list of priorities.
Yeah. Speaking of pass rushers, and it just came to me, but when Geno Smith tripped over Alex Kappa, you remember that play where he's dropping back there on the goal line?
Yes. Yep.
And he falls down. Henley taps him down, right? As he
You're
falls.
going to ask what I think you're going to ask. Go for it.
Oh, I'm not
No,
sure.
go.
Maybe. Does that not count as a sack?
Okay.
Because it's
Good
not
question.
Good
question. Because he not technically giving himself up, he slipped, so he could have gotten up. So when whoever taps him should get credited for the sack. Because
but
what
they
I was
didn't give
wondering,
it to him.
they didn't. Okay,
No.
interesting. What I was
He's got
wondering
half
is
a sack in the stats. It was him and Derwin, I think, at one point got to Geno together, and they gave him each a half a sack. But he didn't get counted for that.
Okay, so then that answers my question, because what I was wondering is, in an instant like that, the quarterback could still get up. Like, if the play isn't blown dead, the quarterback could still get up and continue to play. If you punch that ball out, would that not count as a fumble?
Yeah, I don't know. So I'm going to play-by-play, and they're counting that as a negative 5-yard run.
Okay, gotcha.
That's stupid.
Well, I guess because they can't. Was there a running? Well, you can't tell what was going to happen on the play, assuming like you don't know that it was going to be a pass. So I guess you can't count it as a sack. So the easiest thing is to look at it as a loss of yardage as a run. Was there a running back behind him?
Yeah, I don't know. But if a quarterback's moving backwards and they fall, normally that's a drop back, and you think that that's a sack. But
Yeah, I mean, and
But
now
whatever.
that you're saying it out loud, I think I do remember it as being the rule. So that's why it counts because essentially they're defenseless at that point. So they just blow it dead, and yeah, I get it. But you know, it
Yeah,
was all the
and
different
I don't know
QBs.
about the sack thing. I think the second you touch them anyway, they're going to be
Hmm.
down because they're on their
Hmm.
back, you know.
Sure.
So I don't know. I'm not sure. But anyway, um, yeah, I think we're good. We will see about what's going to happen at the end of this. I'm not sure what Herbert's uh, diagnosis here will be, if he'll be able to come back and play next week or not. But we know that if he does play, he will not be 100%, and it'll be a whole different animal. I'm not sure. We're just gonna have to wait this thing out. But they got the win that they needed pretty handily. Good on the defense
You
and
keep
the
doing it
what? What do I keep doing?
handily.
Oh, my bad. Sorry. No bones about it. I keep making these crazy references that I shouldn't be. But make sure you guys like, subscribe. Appreciate you guys watching each week. Sure we will be back here Monday night, hopefully after a win that they need on a team that's kind of struggling right now in Philly. But I don't know. They look pretty good in those Navy uniforms today. I hope we get a lot more of those games going
Don't
on
know.
for the rest of the season, but and beyond, because those Navies are beautiful. But other than that, make sure you guys follow us on Twitter and everything else, and we will see you next time.
Salute.